It's been a long time, but you're checking out an interview of SS Rajamouli in the US during the RR, the whole thing that happened, how it blew up there. And I think this was a special session they had where he talked to the interviewee, which who I know. I've had him on the channel to talk about films before, George Hurtado. So this will be, special to watch. And I think it was like 2022 it happened in, but now it's finally the whole interview is out. So let's have a look. If you haven't seen the original video, I'll put the link to it in the description. You can check it out on TIFF's original channel. This is a reaction to it. I'll be pausing in the middle talking. It's not a substitute of that video. So if you want to watch that video, go check it out. And without any delay, let's hear him out.
I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to speak with SS Rajamouli. If you don't know who he is, which I find would be unusual these days, he's everywhere. He is a veteran filmmaker. He's been working, as David said, for the last 20 years. But it's only been in the last 6 or 7 years that his work has started to spread outside of the Indian diaspora to more mainstream Western audiences, which is, I think, phenomenal and really speaks to his particular talent. I would like to sort of get to it. So if we can bring Mr. SS Rajamouli out, we can go ahead and get started. And you can listen to the guy you came here for.
Look at that applause.
Thank you so much for coming. This is a huge deal for all of us.
And this will be gonna be a good interview because he is someone who has been watching his films, from Iga times. Like he loves Iga. He has been watching his films for Baahubali, everything he has seen. So his way of questioning and asking things would be more detailed instead of, the person who just found out him through RRR. So that'd be, interesting.
The pleasure is all mine. So happy to be here.
So I think before we get into your current success, which is tremendous, and we will definitely talk about, I think it's important for people to understand sort of your origin story, like where you came from and how you got from your beginnings to being this sort of global phenomenon at this point. And so let's first talk about the film industry that you come from and that you were raised around, the Telugu language film industry. There's been a lot of back and forth, not really back and forth, but people have talked about the Bollywood sensation RRR, which we all know, if you're in this room, most likely that is a misnomer for this particular film. But we've also sort of spoken about the fact that it's not really a Tollywood film either, but that is where you got your start. So would you kind of explain to the people here what Tollywood means to you?
This is such a unique question because it's very Indian thing. I was recently, I think I've shared it. I was recently invited to a channel who's from the US, and they asked me about this, and I tried my best to explain it in the best and easy way possible, but it was still hard.
Oh, we'll get away from it, I promise. I want to start this way.
India is a country of many languages, and we have many different film industries speaking different languages. Most of the people know only about Bollywood, which is Hindi film industry. And I come from Telugu film industry, which is spoken mainly in two states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. I mean, in my childhood, I was always interested in dramatic stories. I loved that.
No kidding.
My family was in films, so it is almost like that's the only place where I'm going to end up, because my liking for storytelling and my family being there in the industry, that's where I ended up. For a long time, where to start? Okay, India had this rich history of storytelling. Indians have a penchant for telling everything in a story. Even the deepest philosophies, they tell in story forms. So our biggest treasures are Mahabharata and Ramayana, the epics, and I grew upon them from my childhood. And of all the languages that are all the film fields in the country, Telugu films made more. Telugu
Yep,
film
that's
industry
true.
made more films on these epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and I liked them.
I actually was just reading up about Telugu cinema, and I made a video also. How they have been making these mythological, fantastical films. In from the start. That's the genre, and that's the kind of films that have existed from the start, and I think it's just taken a like a resurgence in a way, and also like now the budgets they have, they can now actually imagine big and pull it off on big screen, which we have seen with Bahubali, RRR, and with Kalki now.
From my childhood, because it had so much of action and drama. That is my main attraction point. So I thought, if we can take the same, not the same story as it is, but if you can take the essence of what we had on this epics and translate it onto the screen, then Telugu films needn't be only for Telugu speaking people. It can grow beyond that. So, so that's how I started doing. Slowly, it came to the film Baahubali, where it really crossed the borders, and then people started noticing, okay, India is not just about Bollywood. There are some other industries as well, and particularly about my field, which is the Telugu film industry.
So when you started off working, your initial probably the first half of your filmmaking career was, I would say, probably pretty firmly focused at the Telugu audience. So at what point did you actually realize, like you
Interesting
started in
question.
2001 with your first film, right? So in what year or what time did you realize that there was that audience you're talking about, like outside of the Telugu speaking diaspora, which is large? I mean, you have enough of an audience to sustain a bustling film industry. There are 75 million Telugu speaking people around the world, and so that you could very well have made a career focusing on that audience, right? And many people do. So at what point did you decide that you were no longer going to limit yourself to those stories? Like, where did the switch turn where you thought you could tell bigger stories?
I don't think it is
He needs to keep his mic closer, but this is recorded 2 years back, so I don't think it can change.
one particular
But
point.
good question.
But first of all, I always believed that. Right from my beginning of my career, I always believed we had the capacity to grow beyond the boundaries of language.
Yet to see
The
his older
initial
films, though.
successes of my films gave me a little bit more scope to expand my horizon. Uh, with my film called Magadhira, when we finished writing the story, we thought this definitely has the capacity to go beyond the borders. At the time, for different reasons, my producer couldn't invest in going beyond the borders, but I thought I have to do this. I have to do this. And my next film, Ega, and I definitely knew this was this has the best opportunity to go. This time, my producer was very ready to do that, and that's first time when I went beyond just the Telugu-speaking states. We went to Tamil, we went to Malayalam, we went to other states as well, which became successful, and which gave me more and more confidence to go beyond. And then came
then
Baahubali,
Bahubali.
which went pan India.
It
So
started pan India. It started the sensation what we are living today.
speaking of the pan India status, and Bahubali is probably credited as being the first pan India success story, or one of the first pan India success stories, where it released across the country in different languages, and people in the United States and Canada often don't understand that these films are playing here as well, because those are mainly in diaspora theaters, as Peter mentioned earlier. But by the time the second Bahubali came out, it made a tremendous amount of money and was very successful, right? So it's still the top grossing film in India, worldwide, I think worldwide of all time, and certainly in India, right? So with the success of that, were you looking towards a global audience at that point? were you happy or just sort of aiming for the Indian audience still?
Extremely happy, definitely.
Why not? It's a silly question.
Like you were saying, we have Indians spread across the world, almost in every country. And when
Our population is our strength, though.
we make films, we particularly make films for the Indians, Indian diaspora in the other countries. Even Baahubali was the same. The additional mileage that we got for Baahubali was in Japan. It did good to an extent, and somehow, even though I believed my stories can go beyond the borders of my states, I never thought they will go beyond the borders of my people or the Indians. So when Bahubali did well in Japan, I thought, okay, maybe their sensibilities are closer. So I thought I should concentrate more on seeing how my films work in the eastern side of India. Never ever I expected RRR to do well with the Western audiences. I didn't even have an inclination towards that. And when RRR released and when I started getting the responses one by one, I thought, okay, maybe there are a few. Then
I think he has said this before in an interview. It feels really surreal because it's been such a long time now, more than 2 years. 2 years, yeah, around 2 years since that phenomena happened, and it's still prevalent. Like I still see so many videos still about RR from the West, so it's weird.
few went to hundreds went into thousands, and there were people, story writers, directors, critics, film people from different fields talking highly about RRR. Then I realized something that I never knew about myself or my films. So even though I can't say that I know something, so I thought the sensibilities are different, but I came to know the sensibilities also can be similar between my way of storytelling and the Western way of storytelling. I'm still trying to understand, to be very frank. So I never expected.
Same here. I try to find out what is in the screenplay, and I think I found out because it's so everything is so direct and clear. There's no facade, extra things, anything not immoral, but anything which is nothing unwanted. Everything is there for purpose. Every frame, every movement, every action is leading to something, and it is so clear in its like in its telling of the story, that it's easy to follow and grasp and understand and connect to. I think that's the point. Like the whole, like the beginning of this, like we don't know who these villagers are, who these people are, what is she singing, Britishers, these people are tribal people. You can clearly tell. It's the first look, and you can tell. And then coins are tossed, and they take her instantly. It's wrong, and you support her. Please stop her. She needs to get back to the parents, and all of that's wrong. And then you get a dialogue. First kind of big dialogue is being the guy being racist. I don't even waste bullet on them. And then you see a terrible thing happen, and that sets the story that, oh, I want this girl to be back by the end of the film, or the revenge has to be taken, whatever. And then you introduce the two heroes, and those are introduction is so interesting. Like it's so clear. There's no extra, nothing, fluff, as you said, fluff, unwanted moments, which we say for many movies which don't get it 100% accurate. I think RR was 100% to the point. This one hero gets introduced with a big epic moment again. No dialogues needed, nothing is needed. Clearly you understand the action, and you follow what's happening, and you understand this character who can do anything. Then you see, oh, the shepherd who is there to get the girl back. We are supporting him, and then we see what he can do. And then we get more understanding of how they are trying to form it, and then they meet, and then the big thing happen, and they are friends now. So you're already, every moment is making you more absorbed in the narrative, and you cannot stop watching. I think that works for everyone. It doesn't matter which culture you come from.
But a filmmaker is a storyteller, basically, is very greedy. He wants more and more audiences, no doubt about that. And I would really look into it, no doubt about it.
So, what were you surprised about when it came to the reactions to Triple R as you started to see those reactions coming in from Western audiences? Like, what were the things that you were not expecting for them to react to that were really striking a chord with those audiences?
Particularly the taste, at least that's what I perceived. The tastes of the Western audiences are more subtle in terms of drama, in terms of color, in terms of expression, everything. They're more subtle. My films are over the top. They speak loudly. The expressions are loud. Everything is the colors are vibrant. Everything is louder. So I thought it wouldn't stick with them. So that was my first surprise. Story-wise, a good story will work across the globe. I know that. I'm pretty much sure about it. A good story is good story across all races, all languages, everything. Just that sensibilities, I was quite surprised that people who like subtle way of emotions really liked RRR, which is louder.
And I think part of that comes from the sincerity, the earnestness of the filmmaking, of the storytelling. We've read many times over the last several months people talking about the epic bromance in the film, the friendship between the two characters, and the fact that the film is not cynical at all. Everything is very, very clear. Is that kind of what you're speaking about with in terms of having less subtlety?
No, I meant more in terms of expression. For example, if you take the song "Not Natu" in the film, you wouldn't expect that kind of song, that kind of dance, that kind of expression in.
Even that song in itself, I've said so many times, it tells, like, just cut out that song and just watch that song. It tells you a story. It's not just the random dancing and anything. It's also telling a story, which is a bigger theme. Like it explores the theme. Like if you just show the song and that's a trailer for the film, it actually gives you the theme and everything about the narrative. It gives you everything. Even it ends with them facing each other and one has to take goes down for the other. It tells you everything about the characters, about everything. That's how amazing it is.
Uh, in any of the English films or the Western films. So automatically, it is my understanding that they wouldn't like that sort of expression. But when it's almost like unanimous, everyone who watched the film were definitely talking about the song and dance and the way the actors expressed throughout that sequence. So yes, that was really, really surprising for me, and of course, it's a happy surprise.
Yeah. So one of the great things about your work is that it speaks in one of the most universal languages that film has to offer, which is action. Action is demonstrative. It doesn't require dialogue. It doesn't require subtlety. It requires a purpose sometimes, and I think that's where one of the areas that you really shine. So where do your influences? Where did your taste for action or your thoughts? Because the way that your action sequences are designed, going back as far as I've seen your films, which is many years back, what were you watching that sort of influenced the way you design and conceive of your action sequences?
I had a penchant for the action sequences right from my childhood, but when I started growing up and started seeing more and more action films, there are certain kind of sequences which really stuck with me.
By the way,
And at some point of time, I also started analyzing why I like certain action sequences more and certain action sequences don't stay in my mind for so long, even though they are composed or choreographed or shot very well. Then I realized the base of a good action sequence is an emotion. Of course, purpose should be there, but also it should be emotional for the character who is involved in that sequence. If the
Yep.
audience are rooting for him by that point,
The
then you
emotional
can
connect.
take the action sequence to any level. My biggest influence in that aspect is Mel Gibson, Braveheart. I have seen that film many times. I really love the way he designs his action. All his action sequences are based on very strong emotions, and he really pushes the boundaries when it comes to the action, how he stretches the time, how he closes the time, how he takes it
I have
more
not seen it, so I want to know.
than what a human being can do at that point of time, and how stylishly he does that. All because there is a very strong emotion at the base of those action sequences. There's a lot of influence on me, his style. Yeah, that I strongly believe and I strongly follow for all the action sequences in RRR or Baahubali or all the action sequences. There is a very strong emotional drive for the principal character. That is why the audience connect to the sequences so well.
So one of the things that I've really enjoyed specifically about Triple R is we do action films in the West, and they do crazy things all the time. But what is technically very impressive is that in your action sequences, not only are there emotional stakes, right? There's also very clear geography of the action, so you know where everyone is, you know where everyone's
That's true.
going, what their goal is at every point. So when you're designing these things or starting to put them together, like do you have storyboards that you create or drawings that you create, or do you have a team that you work with that tries to plan out? Because your action sequences are 40 minutes long. Like they're not quick cuts. And it's, I only say that because I kind of wish they were 50 minutes long most of the time. But that process must be painstaking to get all of those shots lined up and planned to get exactly what you want out of them.
Yeah, it's long, it's painstaking, but it is beautiful at the same time. Yes, we do a lot of storyboarding. We do a lot of. The way I go forward is once the action sequence is designed in my head, I see which is the most heroic moment. It might be 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. The most heroic moment, and I sit with the concept artist first. So I ask him
Okay.
to get the concept artist right, concept art right. The exact way I want my hero to be, the atmosphere to
moment.
be, or the side characters in which position, which expression they should be. I try to really nail the first one single frame properly.
Okay.
Once I get the
I think so. In RR, you can say the tiger shot, him screaming at it, or the pulling, or the fire, the him against the crowd, one man against the crowd. I think those moments, I think the high moments, you can call it the star moments, and then different star moments and how to connect all the star moments. I think that's his process.
the body language of the or the of or the actors, everything right, then I get my DOPs and get my art directors to come in and contribute to the color tones, to the other articles, how they should be. Most of the time in action, even the articles will be in action. So once I get that right, that will set the tone for the rest of the things. Then there will be a lot of storyboarding. Then there will be a lot of stunt choreography. I have my very good team of choreographers. I tell them to do what we call stunt whiz, like pre-whiz. It's a stunt whiz where they choreograph the whole action sequence, and we edit that one. We shoot that one before the actors come in, and once it is locked, then we get the actors to practice their acts, and then we go for shooting. Yeah, it's a long process, but we really enjoy doing every bit of it.
Excellent. So one of the things that also is very interesting about Triple R and its success is that it's it's begun to cross over from a kind of niche audience, which would be action film fans that were going to see this, into a more mainstream audience, thanks to the re-release over the summer, thanks to the release on Netflix, where it was widely available and incredibly successful. And that's tremendously unusual for a film that's not in the English language. So tell me, how is it, how do you feel about that crossing over from just being, for a specific small niche of fans to a more mainstream audience in a way that we usually only see with art house films or artier films? Like, how does that feel for you?
Like I said, it's still unbelievable. I can't still tell you why it's happening, how it's happening. I haven't completely figured it out, but the feeling.
That's the thing, right? It's not planned. It's happened organically because the effort was there, the hard work was there. It just things just because you were there the right moment, things just came. The universe came together and the miracle happened.
Obviously is fantastic. Yeah, like you said, the initial film run of the film was over and it did great numbers. We were quite happy with it. And when the plan came forward to re-release it, I was quite skeptical. I thought, okay, these guys are overthinking a bit. Okay, then
I'm these guys, by the way.
but okay, we lose nothing, and the enthusiasm with which the distributors went forward, I was really touched that there is so much of love from these guys for my film, but I really prayed that because of that enthusiasm, something should come out of it. Well, it came out of it, not just something. It is many things, and the way it went forward into.
Again, as I said, it's just not about him making the film, but these, variants. I think it's called variants films, and he's also part of it. Them coming and saying let's do it. And I think they were also in talks of making a Blu-ray of the film to be sold in US. That's a thing still there, but I think because of the streaming rights and everything, this is just too complicated. So, and they because at the time of release there's no Blu-ray thing, so in the contracts and all, nothing is there. You have the sole right for the film, for the certain amount of period that Netflix has the right, so this has the right, all of that. So they couldn't do it. So let's see if that happens in the future. But yeah, so many people came together, not just the people who made the film, but these people who thought let's release the film, and the film going on Netflix and doing those numbers
into the art, like I was saying, like not just the film fans, into the critics, into the directors, into the actors, into screenwriters. Everyone were tweeting about the film. And then I thought, okay, my distributors know more about my film than me. And then came the Netflix release, and 14 weeks straight in top 10. It never happened for any other film. So yeah, I'm absolutely happy.
Yeah. It's a great moment for popular cinema, I feel, like, because when we, as I mentioned, we talk about foreign films coming over and making an impact in the Western world, it is typically art house films. It's not usually action films. But you're at a sort of similar crossroads that we saw with Ang Lee and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon almost 20 years ago. And I feel like you're the next logical step in that evolution for audiences around the world. And one of the things that has sort of enabled you to create these over-the-top stories is embracing the opportunities that visual effects present to you before almost anyone in India did. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about where you started with visual effects, and then how you've used those to serve your stories in ways that are allowing you to tell bigger stories than you could have previously.
I think visual effects were always there in my head from a very long time.
His stories demand that.
I was
right?
not the first person to make visual effects oriented films in India. There were pioneers before me. Particularly, I should talk about a producer called Mr. Shyam Prasad Reddy. He was the first guy who would introduce the modern visual effects to. He's a Telugu film producer, introduced to India. And when I saw his films, the way he was using the visual effects, it's not just to create a spectacle, it is to
I
enhance
hope he
the drama.
takes the name of those films.
That thing really stuck in my mind. And when I started, I really started pushing the boundaries, and I had some fantastic visual effects supervisors. Two of them, Mr. Kamal Kannan and Mr. Srinivas Mohan from India, and particularly Mr. Kamal Kannan, who took to me like a disciple, even though he was supervisor, even though I am the director. He used to teach me the nuances of the visual effects, how to use it, how to enhance, what are the programs, and how each section of visual effects work, which is the best practices, where you can break the line, where you can't break the line. He was teaching me a lot, and I was constantly applying that to my work.
It's important because I think as a director who makes such kind of big films, a lot of VFX, I think you should know how it works, because that helps you on direct better, and visualize better that what can you do, what you cannot do on set, the things you have to take care of, because if things are not done well, it can actually impact in the post production, because it's not like Hollywood, like just throw money at it and it'll fix it. That's not how it works. So it's very good practice, especially for him, because the kind of films he make, to understand the process well.
I was not afraid to fail in the beginning of my career. Some of the visual effects I did were quite tacky, but I still went ahead because unless we try and
Yeah.
see, we would never know. Gradually, I got the knack of it, how to use them, how not to use them. But I make, like I was saying, how we use the emotion for the base of action sequences, the same way there should be an emotional push before that big visual effects shot comes. Now, otherwise, it would just be a good visual effects. It won't connect to the audiences. I use the same formula even there.
It's also allowed you to do, speaking of Triple R again, some of the most spectacular animal effects that we've ever seen on screen. And it's come to the point where I don't know if this is your intention or not, but at the opening of the film, where it gives a laundry list of animals that were not harmed in this feature, that's become a point in theaters where people start cheering, because if they've never seen the film before, they're like, what is going to happen here? And animals are a running theme, so you have a fondness for animals, right? Yeah. And that's always tremendously enjoyable to watch with a new audience. Having seen the film four times in a theater, and another, God knows, 10 times at home, it always works out. It never doesn't surprise an audience.
It's a great setup. Like, oh my god, all these animals, that means you're gonna see all of them in the movie. And what happened to them that they were not harmed?
To see that card. Now, when we talk about Indian films in the West, typically speaking, people think of filmmakers like Satyajit Ray or Rivik Katak, or the Arya filmmakers. It's not so much that we hear names of popular film directors. And so, how do you feel about being sort of a pioneer in that regard, to being, now you're not necessarily playing on the same field as them, but you are at the same level of recognition in a lot of ways in the popular film world. So how does that change the way you sort of look at what you're going to be doing next?
One thing, I believe that at least now, that because Western audiences are liking my films, if I suddenly change my perspective and start thinking about how should I make a Western film now, I don't think that's going to work out.
Very
I
important.
have certain way of storytelling, and I need constantly I need to fine tune myself. I should constantly be bettering myself, but that doesn't mean I completely change the way I'm narrating my stories. Then I wouldn't it would be like traveling on two boats, you know. You're on neither. So I think I should still stick to my way of storytelling, but I should better myself, and I also should keep in mind that I have more audiences to whom I can tell my story. But the essential thing there is it should be my story, not someone else's story. Then I wouldn't be going anywhere. You're giving me a big word, pioneer. I still don't know. I'm still in my nascent steps. So let's see. I'm thinking this is the way to go forward. So if this is successful, then probably then it will become a pioneering way of how to tell your stories to the world.
His next film is, I think, interestingly and coincidentally, a genre or a film narrative that will work actually much better with the Western audience than RRR, because it's uh, like a gobble throttle, that Indiana Jones adventure kind of film, which I think works easy, and I think they will. It's genre in India we have not explored that well at a big scale, but we have seen a lot of films like that from the West. So I think it'd be easy for them to follow. But also, I just wonder, he said something very unique, right? Because we're in 2024 right now, halfway to 2024, you know, and RR came out in March of 2022. So it's already been 2 years, and he hasn't even started, shooting his next film, which we know after shooting it will take a year, and then in post production it will take a year. So don't expect next SS Rajamouli film until 2026. I'd say, maybe 2027 also. That means almost 3, 4, 5 years. He'll take again to work on his film. So he's putting that much effort, and when you put, it's not saying if you put 5 years it will become a great film, but you're putting your attention to detail, like what you want, your clarity is there in your narrative, and it just helps you only. I think he can afford it, that how much he's working, uh, how successful he has been, and him, saying it, mentioning it, that I don't want to make for Western. I don't want to change my style to now suit the Western audience. I'll make what I want to make, which is very important. Stay grounded with what you, because that's what made you successful. And if you try to change yourself and try to tell stories like how they want to, you think they want, that will not work. That's what happening with Hollywood, right? That's why RRR worked for them.
I mean, if this is the beginning, then we're all in for a lot of treats down the road. So let's see. When we talk about the way that your films are staged, the aspects of the film that people are responding to, what I found very interesting is that they are typically the things, as you mentioned, that we don't think of translating to a Western audience or to an audience outside of India. It's a very traditional way of Indian storytelling. Coming from the film industry, started with stage production, and the song Natu Natu has been a huge hit. The film is 3 hours long. It has an intermission. It has these unbelievable action sequences, which are all things that Western film fans have seen as deterrence for a very long time. Like, if we mention all these things out of context, they don't seem to connect the way they once did. So did you didn't expect to see the sort of response that you got? Like, what were you thinking about? Like, you're going to Japan, right, in a few weeks to release the film there. What are your thoughts about going out there? What do you expect to see? Because it's already been a global sensation, and there's been a delay between all of your films when they release in Japan. So what are you looking forward to for the future of the film?
That's the case for most of the Hollywood films also.
Nothing short of a great success. Definitely. I mean, in all my career, I never said my film is going to be a big success. I cannot say that, because audience are the people who are going to decide it. I only say that, look, my film has this kind of action sequences, this kind of romance, this kind of emotion, and please come and watch the movie, and they will tell us ultimately whether they liked it or not. So I just keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best. Ideally, because it worked across the world, there is no reason why it shouldn't work in Japan.
It did work really well. I think it was the longest running Indian film in Japan ever.
Thing is, I want it to work bigger and better.
Right. So this is a last question, then we'll go to the audience.
Oh, nice.
I think it's a good way to go out. What's next for SS Rajamouli?
Yeah, I just started writing about 2-3 weeks back.
Okay.
A globe-trotting action adventure. Mahesh Babu, a Telugu superstar, is the hero of the film. So yeah,
That's it.
bigger and better.
Bigger and better. That's what we want to hear.
You know, I like they haven't started shooting yet, so a lot of details are not revealed, and there were a lot of rumors that some international casting will be there, some big actors. So I assume maybe when the shoot we come closer to the shoot, they announce something more about the film and the name of it, and because I think for RRR also they announced a lot before the shoot. Like I think like after the announcement, teaser came with fire and water, and all of that happened. So maybe some big event like that to announce the film.
All right, we do have some time for questions from the audience. We have one over here.
Hi, sir. Thank you for coming here and making everyone proud. My question is regarding RRR. So, are you planning to direct 2 separate movies with Ram takes on British government and Junior India takes on Nizam government? Because in the end, that you left a hint such that Beam will take weapons along with him, right? So, is it a hint that he's going to take on British Nizam government? So, are you planning 2 separate movies with Beam and Ram?
No, I know
You're
the
talking
answer.
about am I planning to do sequels for
Yeah,
the film?
right.
At present, no. When I made RRR, I wanted to show the freedom fighters in much bigger way, like superheroes. So I had to select a period in their time where no history was written about them. So
Yeah.
if I come to the place where they fought against the Nizam and where they fought against the British, that part of history is written. So
Yeah.
I won't have enough room to play around with. So if I make a
Because it's the fictionalized thing he did, which made it, something else
well,
altogether.
again, I need to find more fictitious time, and I need to make a different story. Maybe probably I have to take Ram and Beam to South Africa and make them fight fight there or something like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Question over here.
హాయ్ రాజమౌళి గారు కెనడా వచ్చినందుకు చాలా సంతోషంగా ఉంది మీరు ఐ జస్ట్ సైడ్ లైక్ వీఆర్ వెరీ హ్యాపీ టు సీ హిమ్ ఇన్ కెనడా సార్ యాజ్ యూ మెన్షన్ లైక్ యాజ్ అ ఫిల్మ్ మేకర్ యూ వాంట్ గ్రీడీ టు సీ మోర్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఆడియన్స్ వాచింగ్ యువర్ ఫిలిం సో వీఆర్ ఆల్సో గ్రీడీ సార్ యాజ్ అన్ ఆడియన్స్ టు సీ మోర్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఫిల్మ్స్ ఫ్రమ్ యూ సో రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ యువర్ ఫస్ట్ ఫిలిం టిల్ ఆర్ఆర్ఆర్ వీ హ్యావ్ సీన్ యూ బెటర్ అప్ let it be cinematography or action choreography or the way of storytelling or the character arcs, improving as you make each and every film. When can we expect for your films to be equally better in pace in which you make your films? Because for each and every film you take, these
Good question. Really good question.
many years, and we are like always hoping for you to make films really quick so that we can see more number of films from you.
Yeah.
So it's not just the
I just talked about it. It's gonna take more longer for the next
director
one.
that's greedy, it's the audience that's greedy as well.
Just to add to my question, have you ever assessed like what factors are making you to make films so slowly, or you tried where you can improve as you move forward?
I'm I'm really trying to. I mean, it might sound untrue, but I truly am trying to make films faster. I mean, in fact, if you consider the number of action sequences RRR had compared to Baahubali, they're much more complicated action sequence and many more action sequences.
Yeah.
But we made RRR faster than Baahubali 2. But if you consider taking 1.5 year off because of COVID, then we shot it quite faster.
Yeah, that's a point.
Yeah, I still think we can make it faster. I'll definitely try to do that.
But focus on the story first and take your time. No hurry. A better film is much better than a rushed film, you know?
We've got one down here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rajamouli. Thank you so much for being here at TIFF. And just a quick comment, for those of you who have not had the privilege to be familiar with this early work, you should watch a film called Ega, where pretty much a fly takes down an industrialist. So we've been seeing the nature of his grand storytelling since then, so thank you. My question is, when you write, and I know you do write with your father as well, Mr. Vijendra Prasad, who's a phenomenal writer, how are you able to keep the director outside the door of the writer, write your script, and almost have that sense of duality? Or is it like, as a writer, you're excited to write that, Mr. NTR throws an animal at a person, and the director comes in and says, what, now I have to have someone do VFX for this? How are you able to almost...
Interesting question.
Do you have within yourself someone who's a writer and a director, or is it like a combined force that actually channels both the writing and the directing?
Actually, it is very difficult to differentiate between, at least for me, it is very difficult to differentiate between directing, writing, and screenplay writing. All of them overlap into each other. And for me, how it happens is like I was explaining, Josh, how I get my heroic movements for a particular action sequence. The same way I get my heroic movements for the film as well. And I have an innate sense of whether different kinds of heroic movements come together in one particular storyline or not. So, like you were saying, my father helps me in that. He creates that thread for those action sequences, and all of them come.
He has explained this before. Even I actually went for a session with Vijendra Prasad, who was explaining the whole structure of, RRR and how. I think I have uploaded on the channel. It's on the channel. Check it out.
Together. So it is, like I was saying, I don't separate them. So when writing itself, the direction already starts. So it's very difficult to separate them.
And do you have any advice for Indian, Canadian filmmakers, people who want to take our identity forward? What would be the advice? Do we stay to our roots, or do we redevelop our roots? What would be your advice?
Advice would be the same for any filmmaker, Indian filmmaker or Canadian filmmaker, anywhere in the world. You need to find a story that resonates with you, that you would really, really, really want to tell that story to the audiences. Then you also need to figure out who those audiences are. I mean, you can't always nail them. I didn't know that RRR had Western audiences, so you can't always nail them, but at least you should figure out, okay, these are the audiences that I'm at least targeting, and this is the story I want to tell, and you should, then you go all out. You should have story can be written anywhere, any place. There is no boundary to it. At least you should have some kind of framework where you can get your thoughts together and to make one sense and one understanding.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
We have a question over here.
Thank you so much for coming. Bouncing off of the last question, I wanted to dive into the writing. So you've been writing for a long time. How has your methodology changed over the years? What kind of practices or styles do you have when maybe writing by hand, or what kind of setting or place that you write in, or how you keep your focus? Could you expand upon the writing and how that's...
Interesting question, but again, these are things that, like, I don't think that helps. Like, oh, he writes with pen paper, or he sits like this, or he sits there on a table. Like, these things change for everyone, right? Like, these things should not be matter. Like, what sources he writes, like, and how that's the unnecessary part. Focus on how the process of framing the story, or what are the techniques that can help you write better.
Develop for you as you become more and more skilled in the years?
It hasn't changed much, pretty much the same from the time I started directing. But nowadays, I think from Ega, that I make sure that even though my father is writing, even though my father is writing the story, I make sure that I write the story myself at the end of it, at the end of the discussion. I just put it on the paper myself. Myself, I write my lines. Those lines might be there, might not be there in the end film. But from beginning till end, I make sure that I put it on paper in my handwriting, completely from beginning till end. So that has really helped me to get a little bit more into the depth. And there is one more process that we follow that really helped me from Baahubali time, which we call character designing. We have a person who sits in front of us and he starts grilling us with so many questions regarding each
This
character.
is a good one.
So he will start, even though, for example, if you take RRR, the story of Ram and Bhim is like between about 2 years of their age in 26, 27, whatever age. But when this person sits in front of us and he starts asking us questions from their childhood, how was Beam as a child, as a 5-year-old? What are his likes? What are his dislikes? What was he as a teenager? What are his likes and dislikes? Why his likes changed from this to here, from childhood to teenage, and teenage to adulthood? Why did he change? What are the reasons? No, the person will be having about 400, 500 questions to each character, and it's a very tiresome process. I myself, my writers team, the actor who is playing that character, we sit in front of the table, and like it is like a questionnaire that if we don't answer it properly, we are not going to get the job. No, it is so sincere. So we put so much effort into it, but by the end of it, all as a director myself, as an actor, he also gets a lot of understanding about how that actor behaves in a particular situation, because he knows the story of that character, that particular character, from the time of his birth to time of his death. So this process has helped me a lot.
That helps. It's like because you're kind of breaking it down, and these are things which are not even relevant in a sense to the film, right? You don't need to see their childhood and all of that, but in the acting, directing, writing perspective, you're taking into consideration all of this. So you are better informed when you're writing a scene. How will he behave? What is his character? Is this moment breaking the character we are building? These things happen. When you don't pay attention.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure meeting and honor to meet you, Rajamouli sir.
Hey.
And I have a quick question to you. So everybody knows here, right, is that you play with emotions and you're strong with it. Okay. So, for example, in Sai movie, right, there's a beat called Pantam Nida Nada Sai. So that first it is used for the revenge, and at the end of the movie it is used for the to win the movie, and that's how it is. And for example, same thing goes in Vikramakadu. Chintata Chita Chita, it goes in comedy, romance, and at the end it goes for to kill the Amen. So how do you handle all these things in tunes, and how do you handle those emotions in the movie?
How do I handle it? I don't know. I mean, see, that's a formula that works many a time. So when usually a story starts a little bit light and progressively becomes more and more serious most of the time, not just my films, many films. So when we create those lighter moments, if there are some actions, some dialogues, something that people gets connected with in a lighter vein, but we use it the same thing more strongly in the later, the connection for the audience is it's a good moment, good feeling for the audiences. uh, I don't consciously sit and now we should have a connecting movement from beginning till end. I don't work that way. Subconsciously, it is there. If it works out, we put it. There are many times we think these kind of movements will work, and sometimes it feels we are just putting it for the sake of it. Then I just delete those things. It is not a very conscious decision. We know that works. If it happens organically, we keep it. Otherwise, we won't.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a question back here.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Toronto. My name is Andrea. I'm a student at Toronto Film School. My question to you is that Indian audiences, especially South Indian audiences, are highly impressionable, especially when it comes to the characters and the actors that they see on the silver screen. To what extent do you think a filmmaker is responsible for the kind of impact, whether it be positive or negative, that their art has on their audiences?
Okay. Interesting question.
I mean, responsibility apart, if you don't create those kind of impact on the audience, you're out of the job. No one is going to give you a next film. So, responsibility apart, that is the part of the job that we have to do. Thank you.
Okay. Interesting answer.
Right over here.
Hi, good afternoon, Rajamouli, sir. It's such an honor to hear you speak. Hi, Josh. Sir, I think one of the reasons that Baahubali 1 and 2 are some of my favorite films of all time, because of the fierce female warrior characters that you wrote in those films, played by Anushka and Ramya Krishnan ma'am. I'm just very curious to know, when you write and you cast those very strong female characters, what do you think about in these primarily still male-led films? And do you ever foresee yourself directing an epic with a female warrior in the lead?
Okay.
Anubhav Chopra has asked that question
For
before.
me, a character is a character, whether it doesn't matter whether it's a female or a male. I don't particularly sit and think in terms of, okay, let's put some strong female characters. I don't do that. In the course of storytelling, if that, to enhance the drama in the film or the story at that particular point if a strong character is needed, we'll bring in a strong character. It might be a female, it might be a male, it doesn't matter. So that's how I see it. For me, at some points, the characters being very strong enhances the emotion. Sometimes just putting a strong character without having any purpose will just make it superficial. No, we should be very, at least I'll be very conscious about making those decisions. Me making a movie with a strong warrior female as a lead, it depends at that particular point of time. I have many stories continuously going in my mind. Some of them have female characters as a lead. If you have heard about a warrior queen called Rani Abbaka from Mangalore, I had that in my mind for a long time. So likewise, I have some stories.
Heard about that she alone single-handedly attacked the Portuguese. I think there's a big story. She single-handedly take them down or sacrifices herself, something like that.
There's one story, a modern story, modern day story thriller with a female lead. So I have some ideas in my mind, but at the starting of a new film, whichever idea comes, pops up the strongest, that story I'm going to make. Right.
In the back over here.
Like I said, sir, at the start of a particular project, out of numerous thoughts that go in my mind, whichever resonates strongest, that's going to come first. I don't know when Rani Abbaka is going to be the strongest.
For the last 3 years, I've been working on the story of Rani Abbaka.
Oh, there you go.
3 months back, the person who manages the Tulu Museum, he told me that he has handed over the subject to you now.
No one. It's not someone's, I don't think it's someone's property to hand it over, but no one has ever done that anyway.
We have one last question over here in the back.
Hey, so big fan over here. Before Baahubali was made, there were multiple attempts by, say, Mani sir or Kamal Hassan to make Ponniyin Selvan or Mardanayagam, but they were all shelved after the
Oh,
first
so he
few
could see him.
production, this one. But
Oh,
after
it's a guy.
Bahubali
Okay.
released, a lot of movies of similar tone is being made now. Even Mani sir is making Ponniyin Selvan, and Kamal Haasan is coming back with Mardanayagam again. So what changed after Bahubali that made Mani sir or Kamal Haasan do movies that they were dreaming of before Bahubali? I mean, like, what did Rajamouli do that Shankar or Kamal Haasan or Mani Ratnam were not able to crack the code before Bahubali released?
No, I can't take the credit for it. See, Bahubali is a successful film all across India, but it's not the first film to be successful all across India.
Yes, that's true.
Same Maniratnam sir made Roja and Bombay, which were highly successful, which he made them in Tamil language, and they were highly successful in Telugu and Hindi too. But no one followed up after that.
Yeah.
Bahubali, what it made was like we were afraid to go beyond our market with the budgets. With Bahubali, we took that daring step. My producer took that daring step, and we went much beyond the market budgets, relying, believing that the story can break the barriers of the market, and that gave confidence for many filmmakers that they can increase the budget. So once the big budgets are increased, there are many storylines which will come into that circle. So that's how.
This is a big thing, right? That I think recently in an interview, a producer said, right, that Kalki doing good in Hindi markets is grateful and helpful to other southern films coming, later in the year, which will release, because it will create a hype for them also. People will be looking forward to it. But if Kalki doesn't perform, it's a failure or something, people don't like it, then it will become an example of South films are not that good, or we'll wait and see, or they'll take a step back, they'll not be too invested into it. And but Kalki doing well, it's helping every other film. So similarly, RRR, it's because of RRR today people are talking about Kalki also. People are talking about Kill. Okay, some other reasons are there, but Indian films are being talked about in US also. People who watch RRR now are open to watching more Indian films. They have either already gotten into it, or now with more films reaching them, they're like open to watching it. If it wasn't for RRR, they would have never even thought about Indian cinema. That's what RRR did. It opened a new market.
People are experimenting more, bringing out more stories, which earlier people thought they couldn't make them because of the budget restrictions. Now they had the market had the confidence to move forward.
Hello.
Yes, please.
I have a mic here. The question is really about the marketing and distribution of your global successes. And we would like to request you, what are your impressions of accessing the Chinese market, which is probably the largest market in
Very
terms
interesting
of
question.
screens as well as population, with the example of Amir Khan's Dangal, which made
Yep.
more 400 million plus. So is your team, very talented team, how is it handling the Chinese territory for
It was supposed to release, but I don't think it ever happened.
product?
Like I said, sir, obviously I would want to go across the world, have more audiences. But how to do it? I don't get into those details. My team is there who really look into all possibilities of taking the film anywhere their audiences. Obviously, China is a big market, a lot of screens, a lot of people, a lot of requirement for the content is there. We are trying. It's not that we are not trying. We are trying to do that, but I don't know. I don't know. Along with me, many people are also trying. Probably one day, the whole world can crack the code of how to take films to China.
All right, that's it. We are out of time. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Rajamouli.
All right, so that was a fun interaction, and quite a drive through the memory lane. It's not that far back, but that China question is really I thought they were going to release, and I think if it had, I think the film would have done really well in China also, because we are neighbors, a lot of cultural similarities. If it worked in West, it will work there also, and previously also Indian films have worked there, especially Amir Khan is a big star there. But I think then also there's some relations with China and a lot of things across the which may have interrupted this thing. But yeah, in practical sense, China's a big market, and if our films can open that market, like we'll have 500, 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 crore films. That's the potential we can reach. So that'd be just outstanding. That will open floodgates of what we can do. Because even Hollywood is finding it sometimes difficult to release the films. Only the biggest blockbusters, a lot of money, only they are able to crack it and get into China and play there. And also there are some restrictions what they can show, what they cannot show. So that's also one thing. But I think RRR was easily could have made it. But still, as I said, the RR was a landmark thing. Just how Bahubali was for Indian cinema, pan India cinema, RR was for global, Indian cinema going global everywhere. And, it's just increasing. I think now, till SS Rajamouli takes those 5 years to make his next, people need to come up and, try to go abroad, which Kalki has done. There has to be, you have to keep pushing it. You cannot just, wait for Rajamouli to go back, make a film and come again to push the boundaries. You have to keep constantly working until he comes back again, with this film. And that's what he said, right? Like after Roja, Bombay, they were successes. Kamal Hassan was trying a lot many things. Indian was a pan-India film, but you have to keep doing it. You cannot just stop. You have to keep at it. You keep at it. And I think now is the time, to push that accelerator. Everyone to, in the industry to keep thinking big and going big. Not to forget the smaller films. They are always place for everyone, but you have to keep pushing that boundary. And I think, Kalki doing so well, and then over there, Kill is also doing so well. So much word of mouth about that film. A Hollywood film wants to remake it. So that's also a big step. Our film won at Cannes. That's a big deal. Even so, everywhere you're pushing boundaries. That's great. So, but it all started with, it's all a ripple effect, One thing happened, other thing happened, one thing happened, it just keeps going on. That's what I want to see. But thank you for watching. If you want to check out my reaction to Kalki director Nagashin's interview, you can check it out here and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you next time.